श्रुति स्मृति पुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शंकरं लोकशंकरं शंकरं शंकराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवत् व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सागाः ध्यानास्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरगणाः। देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। Okay. From verse number 47, let's chant. Yeah, Mohan Sai. कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते
कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते
मा फलेषु कदाचन
मा फलेषु कदाचन
मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भूः
मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भूः
मा ते सङ्गोऽस्त्वकर्मणि
मा ते सङ्गोऽस्त्वकर्मणि
योगस्थः कुरु कर्माणि
योगस्थ कुरु कर्माणि
सङ्गं त्यक्त्वा धनञ्जय
सङ्गं त्यक्त्वा धनञ्जय
सिद्ध्यसिद्ध्योः समो भूत्वा
सिद्ध्यसिद्ध्यो समो भूत्वा
समत्वं योग उच्यते।
समत्वं योग उच्यते।
दूरेण ह्यवरं कर्म
दूरेण ह्यवरं कर्म
बुद्धियोगात् धनञ्जय।
बुद्धियोगात् धनञ्जय
बुद्धौ शरणमन्विच्छ
बुद्धौ शरणमन्विच्छ
कृपणाः फलहेतवः
कृपणाफलहेतवः
बुद्धियुक्तो जहातीह
बुद्धियुक्तो जहातीह
उभे सुकृतदुष्कृते।
उभे सुकृतदुष्कृते
तस्माद् योगाय युज्यस्व
तस्माद्योगाय युज्यस्व
योगः karmasu kaushalam.
Yoga karmasu kaushalam.
Yeah. So until verse number 38, Krishna was talking about, or better, until verse number 30, Krishna was talking about Atma Vidya, the knowledge of the self, the nature of Atma. Not heard about before, but for the first time, Arjuna. We can't say first time he's hearing. He must have heard about it. That is why he asked. That is why he asked Krishna that he teach him. Krishna teach him. So till verse number 30, from 11, Krishna unfolded the nature of Atma. Then after that, from verse 31, Swadharmam api chavekshya, till verse number 38, what is the discussion there? Well, relative standpoints. Why he must fight? It is his dharma as a Kshatriya to fight. And you're saying you want to give up all these things and you're compassionate about Duryodhana and the Kauravas. Show me one Kaurava who's compassionate towards you. So this kinds of arguments, relative arguments. Until and before that, till 30, it's all absolute nature of Atma. Later, relative arguments. And you are saying that if you engage in this war, you're going to Naraka. No, if you do not engage in this war, you may end up in Naraka. That is the argument he makes. So that until 38. Then from 39 onwards, Yesha te bihita sankhye. From there, Krishna changes gears, as it were, and talking about Karma Yoga. Introducing the idea of Karma Yoga. And so we saw that famous shloka number 47, Karmanyeva adhikaraste. And then we are now at this verse number 50, Buddhi yukto jahatiha ubhe sukrita dushkrute tasmad yogaya yujyasva yoga karmasu kaushalam. So here we already borrowed a portion of it in the previous shloka. So yoga karmasu kaushalam, which completes the main definition of karma yoga, and attitude towards actions, attitude towards results, and what decides what you do, what I do, dharma. So whatever I do in keeping with dharma. And dharma, I don't absolutely apply dharma. I don't say ahimsa paramo dharma and simply stop acting, because some acts may seem violent. Some acts may seem that I'm hurting somebody. Well, the doctor and the nurse we saw, they do apply ahimsa paramo dharma, and by mutual consent, there is apparent hurting of the body. That hurt does not come under himsa. It comes under ahimsa only. So this we talked about. Interpretation of dharma. So interpreting dharma properly, taking samanya dharma to vishesha dharma, and then attitude towards actions. My attitude is what? I offer this, my actions, my entire journey, this life, whatever I do, I'm offering it to Ishvara. Why am I offering it to Ishvara? Because of my vision that is there. My vision is this entire world is pervaded by Ishvara. Every atom moves because of Ishvara. Every atom is Ishvara. Not just because is the starting point. Then we say every atom is not separate from Ishvara. Therefore, everything that is here is Ishvara. And every heartbeat is nothing but I can sense Ishvara in that heartbeat. With that vision, my attitude towards action is arpana buddhi. Like in a yaga, you offer whatever is to be offered. You offer grains, you offer ghritam, ghee is offered, and all these samagris are offered. And so when you offer it, you say na mama. It's not mine. Not mine. Very important attitude. So this idea of mineness is recognized, and it is, you do your best and then you say I've done it, and it's done. You say I've done it, and then you say it's done. Beautiful. And then so there's no more a hangover that I did this. Okay. Then we have prasada buddhi, attitude towards the results of the action. We saw all that. Okay, I'm not going to repeat all these things. And so here in this shloka, okay, there are two verbs. Jahati is one verb in the first line, and the second line, third word, there is yujyasva. Those are the two verbs in the first sentence, which stops with yujyasva, and then second sentence is yogaha karmasu kaushalam. So let's understand these verbs. So jahati, we saw this yesterday also, or the last class. So the one who is committed to karma yoga, buddhi yuktaha, gives up punya and papa. This is the statement being made that we are trying to understand. First, the word buddhi yuktaha. Buddhi yuktaha means one who is endowed with, one who is committed with something. Buddhi, committed, endowed with buddhi. So here that buddhi refers to karma yoga, because jnana yoga has been taught already. We said until that verse number 30, Sankhya yoga, jnana yoga, all these words we used that time, that was taught, and it's over with. For now it's over with. And so what has been talked about now, Krishna is referring to as buddhi yoga, which is karma yoga. So endowed with that attitude of karma yoga, and ubhe sukrita dushkrite, punya pape jahati, gives up punyam and papa. This is a statement Krishna is making. So let's understand what is being said here. So every action is bound to give results. We know that very well, and thankfully, and that is why we are able to lead a life. So we can do things and get things, give up things. All these things we do, thankfully. Now, there is the idea of kartritvam, doership. Doership means the idea that I am the agent of action. The human being is an agent of action. That is called kartritvam. Agency is called kartritvam. That agency is there. For every human being has that agency, without which actions can't be done, without which ownership cannot be taken, without which responsibility cannot be taken, without which proper engagement is not possible. Somebody calls you Prasad, and Prasad looks up. So identity, that identity itself will not be there if the kartritva buddhi is not there. So that unique identity. So this kartritva buddhi is what is being addressed in the entire Vedanta. And Vedanta says Atma has no kartritvam. Atma has no doership. That is the thesis. It's Krishna's thesis, we can say. No, it is Upanishad's thesis. How can you say Krishna's thesis? Because Krishna came after Upanishads, But Krishna says in the 4th chapter, we will see that. So pura prokta mayanaga. So he says, imam vimasvate yogam proktavan aham abhyavan. So Krishna goes back, hey, all the people who came before you, starting from Manu onwards, I'm the one who has been teaching all this, he says. So we'll say, Are Bhagavan, okay, you say so, we will take it for granted. And so he's been teaching all along, same thing over and over again. Krishna must be pretty bored, I think. You know, how many kalpas he's been teaching the same thing. So, but he doesn't seem to be bored because his avatara is just Ananda Swarupa. So maybe he was just looking forward for this moment. So this Kartrutva Buddhi is there, doership is there, and Atma has no doership. And so this Karma Yogi, who is the topic of these verses, does have Kartrutva Buddhi, does have agency. Ahankara is there, identity is there, and so that Kartrutva Buddhi is there. And Karma, even though Karma Yogi, even though his attitude has changed, her attitude has changed, that person still has the Kartrutva Buddhi. Therefore, doership will be there. Doership is there, then you're going to have what is called Punyam and Papam. Punyam and Papam will be there. The Shastra says, Veda says, there is Punyam and Papam for every action. And not every action creates Papam or Punyam, you know. You're hungry, you cooked food and you had food. What Papam are you going to get? What Punyam are you going to get? Now, depending on what you ate, you may get Papam. What did you kill today? You know, so that question can become a problem. And if I had to kill something, then Papam is there. In fact, I may have hurt plants because I consume plants, vegetables. And so there can be, the idea of hurt comes very important. In our culture, you have all these things. And some people take it very seriously. And so, but unfortunately, the body cannot survive without consuming food. Oshadibhyaha. Food means plants. That is the definition. There can be a non-vegetarian meal, as Swamiji says, but there is no non-vegetarian food. Okay, that's something to understand. So this Oshadibhyaha, food is consumed and you cannot stop the himsa. If you begin to think, I am hurting plants, then yeah, there is some truth to that. That is why our life is always prayerful. And at the end of the day, you just chant your prayers and you say, I may have hurt. I do hurt. I know I have hurt many living beings. And so may you release me from this papa, because there is certain things that I cannot eliminate. Hurt is there. Therefore, this is very important. So, Punya Papam is always there for this person, for the Karma Yogi also. The Shastram says the sannyasi, or the one who knows the Atma, does not accrue Punyam and Papam. This is the big thesis again. And so Karma Yogi versus sannyasi. And so that statement is being made here. It's a bold statement that is said. Karma Yogi buddhi yuktaha jahati ubhe sukrita dushkrite. Karma Yogi gives up punyam and papam. The question is how? Karma Yogi has agency. Then only with knowledge, that agency will go. Agency means what? Agency goes away doesn't mean the person becomes rudderless. You call him, he doesn't respond, because our idea of sannyasi means the person is just thinking about Brahman. And no, not like that. Vedanta is not supposed to make us behave like a stone, otherwise there's no use for this study. So one can get stoned, but Vedanta cannot stone us. Vedanta will really does help us. So that Karma Yogi, okay, does have this agency, and so he gets punya papa. But then here Shankara is making a bold statement: karma yogi also gives up punyam and papa. And we'll talk more about how a sannyasi gives up punyam and papam. That is because when the kartritvam is not there, when the doership is negated, then there is nobody to own up. Nobody to own up that agency, those actions and results. And so what remains for a wise person is what Swamiji calls as an enlightened ego, enlightened ahankara, enlightened kartrutvam. Means kartrutvam is there, but I know it's abhasa. Abhasa is a technical word. No, it's there, but I know it can't be taken any more seriously than what is needed for transactions. Like when you see the sun revolving around the earth, you take it seriously, then somebody has to teach you and say, no, the sun doesn't revolve around the earth. So, but you still, having gained that knowledge, you still see the sun revolving around the earth. No amount of knowledge can stop that motion, stop that perception. And so then you recognize, yeah, it's only a perception. I don't have to take it literally. Correct? Same way, here also, this sannyasi, no agency. Okay. So therefore, Shankaracharya says here, how can a karma yogi give up punyam and papam? He is still in the process. That person also is an ajnani, means does not know. And so one who does not know cannot really give up punyam and papam. And so Shankara says, kramena antakarana shuddhya, means through antakarana shuddhi, and then afterwards he will know. Karma yoga is so important because in that process, that person will come to know. Therefore, Krishna is saying karma yogi gives up punyam and papam. Okay. So that order is important. What order? Sadhana chatushtayam, adhikaritva, we talked about all this. So the preparedness is there. So for just like any subject, preparedness is needed, because this subject also has to be understood, and understanding means some preparedness is needed. Some background prerequisites are needed. Those prerequisites are adhikaritvam. And then with that, then karma yoga, attitude. Then with karma yoga, the result is antakarana shuddhi, means a fairly composed mind. A mind that is clear about the realities. A mind that is not carried away by raga dveshas, likes and dislikes. Very, very important in our culture that this mind is a prized mind. And not just a consumer-oriented mind, The West has given us this idea that you must be a consumer. And then we keep on consuming. And where are you going? I'm going to the mall. I don't know if I told you this. And my colleague in the company I was working at, lunch, we went to buy some lunch. And so we had lunch. This was a sandwich, like a Subway sandwich. And these days I can quote the example because everywhere in India also Subway is very much here. So they pack the sandwich and then they give it to you in a plastic bag. And while he was taking the plastic bag, he pulled a few more plastic bags, 3 or 4 more he pulled. And then he put it in the trash can. Means dustbin. I said, John, what are you doing? He said, plastic, we need to consume. And our company is making plastic. This is also the problem. So look at the way the mind works. He is saying that we have to, more plastic will get consumed. So where do you start with this guy now? I'm supposed to have lunch with him and he's my colleague also. And where should I start? Should I say anything or not say anything? And then you say, this is my karma to have such good friends. Nice man, we don't judge anybody, but see that. So this kind of mindset is there. But here we are not being carried away by raga dvesha. That is karma yoga. So antakarana shuddhi is there, and then antakarana shuddhi, and then jnanam. A mind that is ready to understand facts about oneself, about the world, about Ishvara. And so that order has to be properly understood. Why it should be understood? Otherwise, what will happen? We will get the idea that karma yoga is a path, because we've all heard there are many paths to moksha. Hinduism is not an ordinary religion. It's you can choose whatever path you want. It's like going to the restaurant and say you don't have to eat just dosa. You can eat anything you want, idli, and some of our people, my nephews, when they come here from US, they love to go to some of these restaurants. They like all these big dosas, and they're all they love this kind of food. So you can have whatever you want. Like that, our Bhagavad Gita also offers. It's a very, very generous religion, It doesn't force things upon you. So there are many, many paths. Yeah, many paths in the idea of all your Ishta Devatas and types of pujas you do. There are all many ways of doing things. What type of meditations do you want to do? Are you ready to do? All these questions are all available. But that does not mean there are many paths to moksha. Why there are many paths to moksha? Not many paths to moksha. So you need to think about it. Well, what problem are you trying to solve? Okay, that is what you have to ask. It's a big problem. Solution must be offered. So if you're trying to make some chai in the morning, there are some specific things you have to do. And you can't say, I'll go outside, take a walk and come back. Or go around the house 3 times, 4 times, come back. And then tea will be ready. Well, if somebody else makes the tea can be ready. But that cannot be a recipe for making tea. And so, depending on the problem, solution has to be there. So here the problem is diagnosed as an intellectual problem. Correct? I am the whole. I am Ananda Swarupaha, but I have taken myself to be limited, mortal, because the body is mortal. But the body's mortality I impute on myself, the Atma. This is an intellectual problem. Like I project the snake on a rope, and then fear. So therefore, this idea of many paths may be there. Bhakti yoga, dhyana yoga, anahati yoga, nadi yoga, raj yoga, buddhi yoga, jnana yoga. So the list is endless. And as I said the other day, I can create one new yoga, and then I can create a whole group, and few years from now that yoga will become a big thing. And if properly advertised, and if I maintain, if I'm careful about what I speak, and then the people will believe everything. So here Swamiji makes a point that this understanding, this krama, this order is important, so that we don't get confused, that there are so many yogas being offered, and every chapter of the Gita offers one yoga. That also idea some people have. There are 18 yogas the Krishna talks about. So that yoga is different. That's a topic. There are 18 topics. So there the word yoga means topic and not some kind of a discipline. Okay. All right. So if once we understand the order, we give up the idea that there are different paths to moksha and things like that. Everything we do just converges beautifully. We'll see all that. Okay. So now, then, therefore, we cannot ask the question, should I take to Karma Yoga or should I take to Jnana Yoga? What is best for me? Because we've been talking, Krishna is talking about Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga. So, which one is best for me? The question can arise because two yogas already mentioned by Krishna. So, if the order is clear, then we know what's appropriate. But imagine the situation. Imagine this situation. So, in the family, there are, the family is there, and there are young children, and the boy is in 3rd grade, 4th grade, but very, very, very intelligent boy. He seems to pick up things. And then this corona pandemic, and then the parents are explaining to him what's what, and then the news talk about there's no cure. They say, beta Vikram, there's no cure, that's why people are taking care of themselves. And look at TV, they're talking about cures, and companies are developing some cure. There's no cure for it, there's no medicine for it, and he appreciates that. And then being of that mindset, and he loves this idea of trying to come up with something, and he likes to, he goes with the mother to the kitchen and then does things with the mother and father. And so this boy is different, he wants to experiment, so he likes this idea. Suddenly he latches on to this idea of developing cures. And I also want to do research, he says. Good Vikram, yeah, definitely, I think you are built for that. So then after some time he says, should I do my bachelor's or should I do my PhD? Because he knows a little bit about PhD and all these things. Should I do my bachelor's or should I do my PhD? Now what should the parents tell him? Same thing here also. It's not a question of whether you do bachelor's or PhD. A bachelor's is a stepping stone for PhD. The child doesn't know that. The child thinks there are two options. And should I complete my high school or should I do my PhD? I think that's a better example. So there is no choice here. You have to just go through the entire process. And so likewise here, Krishna is telling here that, look at that. He's saying what? In the previous shloka, he's already said that. He's already said yogastha kuru karmani. Okay. So do actions remaining committed to karma yoga. He's already said it there. Here also he's saying, he's repeating that statement. Tasmad yogaya yujyasva. Tasmat means therefore. Yujyasva, commit yourself to. For what? Yogaya. To karma yoga. Commit yourself to karma yoga. And so that's the advice he's giving. Because you're not ready for sannyasa yet. That's the implication. Not ready for sannyasa yet. Why you're not ready for sannyasa? Because he's still emotionally entangled with his near and dear ones, and which is why he was unable to make the right decision, or unable to stick with the decision to go to war. So look at that. We learned so much from this. We learned that just because you are studying Bhagavad Gita doesn't mean you don't go to war, and doesn't mean if we are called upon to go to the battlefield, we are supposed to do that. So that dharma is there. So the Varna dharma, he has to keep up with the Varna dharma. There is no choice. Just because he can't say, I learned Bhagavad Gita from Krishna direct, pratyaksham, even before it was written down, I read it, I studied it. Therefore what? therefore I can do whatever I want. No, can't do whatever you want. You have to do what is your duty. Still, even after the teaching. So that is what Krishna is implying in this shloka. Engage yourself in karma yoga. And so we need to that we talked about sannyasa versus sannyasi versus karma yogi and giving up of actions. And that idea Krishna will present later also. And he's going to use a phrase called sarva karma sannyasa. Sarva karma sannyasi. These phrases will be used. And the meaning of that, I think you can pick up. One who has given up all karmas. Okay? One who has given up all karmas. How can one give up karma? It's not possible. Breathing is an action. Speaking is an action. Standing is an action. Walking is an action. Unless one dies, how can one give up actions? It's not possible. But understand that the knowledge is that Atma is not an actor. Atma is not a karta. So giving up actions means knowing that Atma is not an actor, not a karta. That is how one can give up actions completely. It's like the family is going on a journey and they've just boarded the train and the children are all excited. And this going in a train journey, generally people are upbeat about it in India. So I think people like these journeys. Unless it's too long, etc. Unless it can be pretty hot. All these problems can be there. But here, they've just boarded the train in the platform, in the railway station. And then the train starts to move. The bell rings. And the boy says, Amma, the platform is moving. Platform is moving. Have you got that feeling before? Sometimes. So platform is moving. Then the father says, yeah, we need to stop the platform from moving. It's not good. Correct? Platform moves, we will fall down. It's not good. Beta, we have to do something. What should we do? Yeah, we should all stop the platform from moving. Tell him, hey, we're all still here alive. You're stupid or what? We will all fall down. We'll get crushed. Yeah, we'll get crushed. How do we do that? And the platform is moving faster and faster and faster. And then nice time the father has with the son. So what happened? Who's moving? Oh, platform's not moving? What do you think? So this is the education that happens there. And so there is no need to stop the platform from moving because the platform is not moving, my dear. Same way here also. You have to give up all the karma. How do you give up karma? No. The giving up of karma is cognitive. Is by knowledge. So we've used the word cognitive by now. I think all of you are familiar with it. Cognitive means knowing that Atma is not a karta. Once you know it, karma is all given up. You don't really give up. It's all gone. It's given up. Like stopping the platform from moving. Okay. So that's that phrase I introduced here. And that is important to know because here Krishna says, Ubhe Sukruta Dushkrute Jahati. Because only that person who knows can give up punyam and papam, including all actions, including kartrutvam. Actions will continue to happen. Krishna is not suggesting just sitting quietly and doing nothing. No, that would be a dereliction of duty. That's not advised. Indian society is a duty-based society. So it's all duty, one after the other, duty, duty, duty. And so that continues throughout our life. So that is the essence of this shloka. Let's go back to the shloka and see, look at the meaning. Kaushalam, I think we already talked about in the last 2-3 classes, Kaushalam. And so referring to exercising one's choice. Choice will be there and one has to exercise choice properly. Appropriate exercise of choice is Kaushalam. And therefore, now let's look at this verse number 50. Buddhi yuktaha jahati iha. That word iha we did not cover. Okay. So an important word, iha. Iha means in this life, here itself. So the idea is that after death you gain moksha. All these ideas are there. In every culture they have. After death only you go to heaven. After death only you reach God. All these ideas are there. You don't reach God when you're alive. So far we have not seen anybody. But we see a lot of people saying God sent me and all that they talk about. But we don't take those things too seriously. So this iha means that moksha is gained right here in this life itself. You don't have to die in order to get moksha. Very important, unique to Sanatana Dharma. Jivan Mukti is indicated here by saying iha. How can I get moksha in this life? I thought I have to die to get moksha. Well, knowledge. Who can gain knowledge? The dead person cannot gain knowledge. It has to be a living person, a thinking person only can get knowledge. And so that's brought out here very nicely, just by one word. Jahati iha. Karmajam buddhi yukta hi.
Karmajam buddhi yukta hi.
Phalam tyaktva.
Balam tyaktva.
Manishinaha.
Manishinaha.
Janma bandha. Vinirmuktaha. Padam gachanti. Anamayam. Karmajam buddhi yuktahi. Phalam tyaktva manishinaha. Janma bandha vinirmuktaha. Padam
gachantyam namayam.
Good. So here a question can arise. You're saying that if I am a karma yogi, punya papa will disappear, go away. Punya and papa, there is a big account every one of us has, and I have a big account. And in fact, I've been gaining a lot of punya because I have understood how important dharma is, and we have to do the right things. And I in fact do a lot of charity, and so I've been gaining a lot of punyam. And you're saying this punyam will go away? Papam will go away? I cannot handle that. What I'm working for, it will all go away, you're saying? That doubt can be there. Okay, so Krishna is addressing that potential question in Arjuna by stating this shloka. So let's see what he says. So the first sentence, karmajam buddhi yukta hi phalam tyaktva manishinaha. So here it's a restatement of karma yoga. Okay. So manishi, that word is used here. That's the noun, that's the subject of this sentence. Manishi. And manishi means one who knows. One who knows. So one who knows means it can't be a karma yogi, because karma yogi does not know yet. So therefore, buddhi yukta, he uses the word buddhi yukta. Manishinaha means what? Wise people. And then buddhi yukta, these karma yogis who are endowed with the attitude of karma yoga, and what do? Karmajam phalam tyaktva hi. Karmajam phalam tyaktva hi. By giving up the results of their actions. How do they give up the results of the actions? Hey, results can never be given up. But phalam tyaktva means that anxiety about the results is not there. Zero. That is what is meant here. Action will always produce result. So you can't say, I don't want this, I don't want that. The minute you have thrown the ball will fall wherever it has to fall. You can't say you can't ask the ball to stop. So, karmajam phalam tyaktva hi. So, the karmajam means born of karma. The phalam that is born of karma, giving up those results. These karma yogis become manishis, become knowledgeable people. That's one way to say it. Or you can say it the other way. The wise people, having given up the results of actions, okay, being endowed with karma yoga, then important word is said here. Janma bandha vinirmuktaha. They are free. They are vinirmuktaha. And they are free. Free of what? Janma bandha. Bandha is bondage. Some kind of predicament. Bandha, bondage. And interesting, the word bond seems to have a connection with bandha. So what kind of bondage? Janma bandha. The bondage called birth. Bondage called birth. Or the bondage of birth. That person gives up. Wise person gives up the bondage of birth. So, looking at birth as a bondage. So that's very common in our culture. And so we are born of our past karma. And that idea is there. And of course, the idea of bondage, birth, the life being a bondage is also there. That is why there is seeking. There is seeking for moksha. Always seeking for ananda is there. So this birth as a bondage idea is common, which is what he is mentioning here. And it's a bondage because that same birth is going to make me create more punyam and papam, which will make me born again in another janma. So therefore this karma without knowledge binds me. That idea is there. And so again here, remember, it says here, Janma Bandha Vinirmuktaha. Free from the bondage of birth in this life itself. You have to bring the iha from the previous shloka. They become free, not after death. Mritva, Krishna doesn't say after death, doesn't say that. So while living here itself, while living, Janma Bandha Vinirmuktaha, and this idea is being presented here. Again, Jivan Muktihi, again praising Karma Yoga, praising the Karma Yoga by giving the benefit, stating what is the benefit of Karma Yoga. He says people become wise because of Karma Yoga. This attitude is so important here, Arjuna. Now, there can be an argument here. You know, Krishna, this is great. But you know what? This Punyam and Papam, I don't believe in all that. Because that's all after death. We have no idea what happens to us after death. And you're saying another birth will be there. And you're saying there's Punyam, you're saying there's Papam. All these things are there. You know, I do my duties properly. I appreciate Krishna's teachings. I like this. I appreciate the idea of Samatva Buddhi. Therefore, I keep Ishvara in view, and therefore my actions are all blessed by Ishvara. And so this idea is very important. I like that and I follow that. But this idea of Punya Papa giving up on all that, it's okay. I mean, it doesn't make any difference to me. I don't even believe in it. And so what if I give up Punyam and Papa? Anyway, at the death also, in fact, next Janma itself, I don't know. Because death, I get burned when I die. And I am all ashes. Or I am buried. Some people get buried. And so, buried also, I am stuck. They put me deep and I can't come out. And grass is growing. And so grass is depleting whatever little oxygen is there in the mud. So I don't have oxygen when I'm buried. So all problems are there. So I'm completely finished. there is no trace. After a while, people forget me also. So this Punya Papa and all, it doesn't attract me. Okay. So that doesn't make sense. So this sloka seems to address, Swamiji says it seems to address that particular doubt. And he says, Padam Gachanti. What is the sloka? It says, the last pada is, Padam Gachanti Anamayam. That person who gains that knowledge, Gachanti in Sanskrit, goes, attains. Going in the sense of attaining, commonly used in our language. And gets, sometimes we can say that. So gains what? Padam. So in Sanskrit language, padam means a word. A word is a padam. A word which immediately reveals something to you. In any language, it's called padam, a word. Padam has other meanings also. In Tamil, they will say padam. Padam means, in cooking, padam is important. Did everything come out properly? People who are experts at it, they know exactly how all these sambar, rasam and dal and sabji, everything should come out. And all the sweets they make, right? It has to be pakka. That's called padam. Like this, we have different meanings. But here, that's not the meaning. Here, the meaning is that which is accomplished by knowledge, moksha. Padam. Moksha padam. That's why sometimes they say moksha padam. And and then he's using another word here, anamayam padam. Anamayam is an adjective to the noun padam. Anamayam padam gachanti, gains. And what is anamayam? Okay, so I will just finish it in a couple of minutes here. So anamayam, we know what anamaya is. All of you know what it is. So sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu Niramayaha. So there the word amaya comes. So there the prayer is, let everybody be free from disease, free from difficulties. Sarve santu niramayaha. That amaya means affliction, disease, suffering. Anything that's unpleasant is called an amaya. So here, look at that. Anamayam. Anamayam padam gachanti. That person gains this moksha which is free from all what? All amaya. Any kind of difficulty, any kind of obstruction, anything, any kind of sorrow. That padam which is free of sorrow is what this person gains. Anamaya. Correct? And so here Shankara also says upadrava rahita. Rahita. Sarva upadrava rahita, he says. Upadravam means a difficulty, something that's not desirable. And that status which is free of all undesirable things. And so that can only be moksha by knowledge, because wherever you go, however long you wait, it's all subject to time and space, and therefore that upadrava will always be there. The body is there, the body will go through whatever it has to go through, and so upadravas will be there, pain will be there. Body is there, pain is there. Pain will not be eliminated, but only the knowledge of Atma being the whole. Sarvam khalvidam Brahma. Everything that is here is Brahma. And that Brahma, I am. That knowledge alone can be this anamayam padam. So Krishna is saying that person, wise person, gains that end which is free from all afflictions. So we will translate this shloka in the next class. Okay. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.